What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another random movie review channel. Thank you for stopping by. My name is Chase, and let's talk about one. And the movie I want to talk about is Pinocchio, the 2022 live action version of the 1940 animated original from Disney. And I have to say all that just because there's so many adaptations of Pinocchio out there. You just got to know which one this one is. But anyways, this one drops on Disney Plus this Thursday, September 8th, if you choose to watch this film, regardless of what I'm about to say. So, if you've never seen Pinocchio, what is it about? A living puppet with the help of a cricket as his conscience must prove himself worthy to become a real boy. Like I said, it came out in 1940, super old. One of my favorites growing up when I was watching all of the classic animated Disney films. I was born in 1990, so I saw the Disney Renaissance from 89 to 94, which was a great run from them. And then I wanted to go back and watch some of the classics, and Pinocchio is one of my favorites. So this one is a play-by-play live action adaptation of that animated original. So, going into it, I remember seeing like one trailer for it, and I enjoyed the trailer. I was like, this could be a really great live action adaptation because I feel like Disney's been lacking in that department. Some of them have been okay, but then most of them have just been, questionable. And so I was hopeful that this would be the one. And it's directed by Robert Zemeckis, who, you know, Contact, What Lies Beneath, Back to the Future, and then more recently, films with like Flight, which is amazing, The Walk, which is really good. Um, did he do The Witches? Yeah, he did The Witches. The guy is amazing. He's got so much range. He can do drama, he can do comedy, he can do fantasy, he can do animation because he's really interested in the mocap part of that. The guy can do anything. And so with that, Zemeckis and Tom Hanks playing Geppetto, I was like, come on. This is like a recipe for success, right? So I watched it. Hi, it's me interrupting me, and I just wanted to take a break to thank the sponsor of this review, Movie Palette. Movie Palette takes the concept of the movie poster to the next level. Movie Palette consists of stripes of colors carefully chosen by their team of artists. Every stripe represents a color of a particular scene in a movie and is put in chronological order on the canvas. There are so many movies to pick from, and it doesn't even stop there. They also have whole seasons of TV shows. I recently moved and I needed some things to put on my wall, and I was getting tired of putting up traditional movie posters and wanting something different, and Movie Palette stepped up to the plate. The movie palette that I chose was one of my favorite movies of all time, Logan. This gorgeous palette is a constant reminder of how beautiful this film is and how each scene evokes a different emotion all through its language of color, not to mention a great conversation starter. This is a unique piece to any film and TV lover's home, and I want to help you get one. Use the discount code CHASE15 for 15% off of any product on their website. Film is art, so why not display your favorite as such? That's 15% off of your order when you use the code CHASE15. It's fine. It's not the worst, and it is by far better than some of the other live action adaptation attempts that Disney has had from their own movies, but this one's okay. There's a lot of great things to admire about it. There's a lot of things that are questionable and just cheap looking about it, even though this thing cost $150 million. I'll get to that in just a second, but yeah, there's a lot of great things to appreciate and some things I just had questions about. But I'm gonna start with Robert Zemeckis. What Robert Zemeckis does as a director is he's able to create movie magic from any movie, any story. He brings the fantastical to life. He grounds it. He makes it tangible. It's real. It's in front of you, and it feels like you're watching something real. And so I will always appreciate that about Zemeckis. I think the first time I noticed that was because I watched like some of his dramas before Back to the Future. Um, but Back to the Future, when I saw it, I was like, this is what movie magic is all about. This is what makes me fall in love with this art form and just being transported and like feeling like you're watching like the untangible on screen and like it feels so real to you. Like that's what he does. And there are moments in this where Pinocchio has those elements where you're like, wow, this is actually like pretty cool. Like you have all these animated characters in this live action world. This shouldn't work, but in some scenes it does. And like it's just the way um, it's constructed with like its production design and costuming and some of the animation. It works really well, and like I think he was able to capture that beautifully. And there are several moments like that, especially like Geppetto's house is really well detailed, and like it feels like it was plucked right out of the animated film. So I love Robert Zemeckis' vision. I will always love that. Here's where I have the disconnect. When you watch the original cartoon, there is a sense of tone shifting that happens throughout that cartoon. It gets dark. It gets very dark. It gets very real. And so with this one, yes, it is doing the same scenes as the original and it's staying very, very true to it. But that emotion, that darkness is kind of lost a bit because some of the VFX, some of the scenes are just a little too goofy where when it is reined back in and it's trying to be, you know, dark and real and grounded, it just it's too far gone at that point. So I felt like there was an emotional disconnect with those particular scenes. And so it was almost diving into the territory of what I said about excuse me, Guy Ritchie when he did Aladdin, where it felt like they had a checklist and they had, okay, that scene's done, moving on, that scene's done, moving on, and there was no passion or emotion behind those. Um, that's how it felt sometimes with this one. So that would be like my well, we'll get to the VFX in a second, but like that's like my major complaint about this film is that a lot of that is kind of stripped. And so now you're left with like this wonderful looking movie that, you know, is very true to the original, but it doesn't have that same emotional impact for the characters or the story. So, but I will appreciate Zemeckis' vision for bringing anything like this to life. He's always the master at that. So, let's go to the performances. I gotta tell you, I've seen a lot of movies in my life, a lot of animated movies in my life. I can usually pinpoint people's voices. I could not pinpoint Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Jiminy Cricket. I just couldn't. He was doing something with his voice to where it hit it so well that I could not hear his like just if I imagine him like in interviews or in other movies, like I could not imagine his voice. So he did a great job slipping into his character. Tom Hanks is okay as Geppetto, but I think the real MVP here is all of the voice acting, bringing these animated characters to life. Um, Jiminy Cricket has a lot of personality. Pinocchio has a lot of personality. And my favorite by far is Honest John, who was voiced by Keegan Michael Key. Wonderful casting. So every person that was in animated form knocked it out of the park. I really thought they added so much to their characters. Most of the live action performances are a bit rough, a bit stale. Case in point, at the very beginning of the film, it almost felt like a stage play, and there was something off about the acting, and then as it kind of, went along, it got a little better, but yeah, there was just something off about it, and whether it be Tom Hanks or Luke Evans, um, I don't know, there's just none of that stuff worked for me. It really didn't, like, some of them were okay, but, like, for the most part, the live action stuff, performances were a bit hokey, and so, um, I know it's really bad to say, but, like, I appreciate everyone for contributing to this film. I just yeah, I thought everyone in animated form was a bit better. The VFX work. This is where I have the biggest confliction of this entire film. On one hand, there are some scenes, stellar, fantastic animation. There are a couple scenes that made my jaw drop in terms of detail and texture, lighting, movement, believability in the set, contrast between the live action background and they're in the foreground. There were some scenes that were so well animated, and the VFX work were pristine. And then there were some it was primarily screen work where you have an animated person or person or creature in front of a live action background, and it was clearly animated where it just you could not suspend your disbelief because the background was still. It was definitely like a still plate of a live action background, but with the animation going, super fluid with their movements and stuff, it just looks off. There was also one scene where Pinocchio was running, and he was running super fast, but like the movement in the background was going super slow. So it's stuff like that, excuse me, that was a bit off. Also, when the live action performers were in front of green screen, it was really apparent and it was not blended in well whatsoever. There was one particular scene that I could not believe that they didn't want to redo. Um, there was a stagecoach, live action people. There was kids in the back of the stagecoach, and there was weird lighting on their face, and so it made everything stick out like a sore thumb. And so it's just stuff like that that blew my mind because the VFX work in general was was pretty amazing to watch for the most part. And then just some of the compositing work was a bit off. It was just weird because I what I was watching on screen was a very expensive animated movie with live action components. And some of it worked, and I was like, "This is really impressive." But then there are some scenes that happen where you just get frustrated because you're like, you feel like they're just everyone worked their butt off to make this movie, and like that everyone was passionate to make it, but there was just some that just didn't work, and so the believability factor just kind of takes you out of it, and it just yeah, it's just it really just kind of dampers your whole experience with the scene. So yeah, there's a lot of great things to say about this film. There's a lot of bad things to say about this film. Overall, it just kind of lands in the middle for me. But we are still not at that point of like great live action adaptation from Disney animated movies. We're just not yet. So we'll get there one day. I don't know which one it will be, but one of them will strike me and be like, wow, that was actually like pretty good. So, but this one is not the case, but it's also not one of the worst. So let me know down below what you thought of Pinocchio, the 2022 live action adaptation of the Disney animated original from 1940. Please let me know all that down below, whether you liked it, loved it, hated it, all that stuff. And then, yeah, that will do it for this review, guys. I'm Chase Lee. Thank you for tuning in on this random movie review channel. You guys are awesome. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.